So you've been working hard to get in ketosis, and then boom, all of a sudden you're out of ketosis. And you don't know why. So in today's video, I'm ranking the most common reasons people fall out of ketosis, and more importantly, what you can do about it to stay in ketosis. Food labels and manufacturers can be sneaky in how they report total carbs and sugar alcohols in products. So the first reason is hidden carbs and misleading labels. This by far is the most common reason why people are falling out of ketosis. And even a few extra grams of carbohydrates can knock you out of ketosis, especially if you're still have significant insulin resistance. So where do these hidden carbs lurk? Well, you'll find them in condiments like ketchup, barbecue sauce, balsamic vinegars. Really check the labels closely and make sure you're noting what the serving size is, because you may think, oh, this isn't bad, but the serving size might be really small. So you really have to tune in to checking the labels before you buy. The other foods that are really common where this might happen is keto-friendly or low-carb foods. So just because it's low carb or it says keto-friendly doesn't always mean that it's made with the best ingredients, the best sugar alcohols, and oftentimes the bad seed oils, which that contributes to insulin resistance and inflammation, which will knock you out of ketosis. Deli meats with added sugar. Why would you put sugar in meat? But they do. Be careful of the ones that are like honey baked, buffalo chicken, anything with extra seasonings. So you can always go to your store and ask the people in the deli, can you see the packaging, so you can take a look at a list of the ingredients. And soon you'll find, and that's if you're going directly to the deli. If you're buying already packaged deli meats, they might have the label on it. But usually they're pretty accommodating and they'll let you do that. The last one in this category are nuts and seeds. Nuts, most of them are very good for you, but some have more carbs than you think. So just be careful. Things to watch out for. Take a look at the nuts you like and compare them to other nuts in the amount of carbs. Now, macadamia nuts are very low in carbohydrates, very high in good fats. But boy, are they addicting, and before you know it, you ate a handful, and that can really add up in calories. I like macadamia nuts, but I usually don't purchase them. My go-tos are walnuts and pecans, but there's pili nuts, there's Brazil nuts, all of them, almonds. But another thing to watch out for, if they're seasoned, be careful if they're seasoned, because they like to slip sugar in there as well. And if you're getting roasted nuts, you want dry roasted nuts. You want to make sure that they're not dry roasted in the bad seed oils. So you're getting this beautiful whole food nut, and then they roast them, but they roast it in soybean oil. That's not what we want. So dry roast it if you can find it. So the solution, I think, is always to count total carbs and not net carbs. And try to stick to whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible, and then this shouldn't be an issue. Secondly, a big area that we need to be careful of is artificial sweeteners. Sweeteners may not have calories or carbs. They can still trigger an insulin response, making it harder for the body to burn fat and produce ketones. So the big offenders are maltitol. That's common in sugar-free candies. And the big chocolate companies love to use maltitol in their sugar-free chocolates. And so that is a sugar alcohol that will spike your blood sugar. sucralose, or better known as Splenda. Now, in the old days, that was my sweetener of choice. Today, I realized I was getting headaches from it, I did think it had a better taste. But this can cause an insulin spike in some individuals. Now, that wasn't my issue, it was headaches, but it can in some real sensitive people. And guess what? A lot of diet sodas have sucralose. So, it's your choice. I would check if you can get a hold of a a glucose monitor, and see if it affects your blood sugar. And in some people, again, it's called the cephalic response, when some of these sugars, they don't have calories and carbs, but they taste even more sweet than regular sugar, and the brain thinks the body's getting sugar, so it tells the body to release insulin. And so you can still have that same response. Not everybody has that, but some people do. And then even stevia or erythritol may affect some people. And again, I'm fortunate I've tested with had ordered and periodically wear a continuous glucose monitor where you can get what your blood sugar is doing in real time. And I have to tell you, that was very helpful for me to know what foods were good for me and which foods were bad for me. And I will say that is the best behavior modifier. And so if you're like, my husband loves sweet cream in his coffee, until he saw, I kind of forced him into wearing that continuous glucose monitor, and he saw what it did to his blood sugar and the spike he would have. And so I think if you can, and most people can now get access to a continuous glucose monitor, it would really be informed. You can make very good informed decisions about what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. So but most, like I said, most people have no issues with stevia or erythritol, or monk fruit as well. So the solution is test how your body reacts. If you're suddenly out of ketosis after a keto dessert, your sweetener might be the culprit. The next category where I think I see a lot, and I see it with clients, is the consumption of alcohol. Now, this isn't a statement about whether you should have alcohol or you shouldn't, but what I want to talk about is how it can really undermine your progress on the ketogenic diet and your ability to stay in ketosis and burn fat. So what the problem with alcohol is alcohol cannot be stored in the body, and the liver finds it to be very toxic. So whenever you consume alcohol, and if you're consuming it with other macros, other foods, it is going to prioritize metabolizing that alcohol first. And so it's going to eliminate that. The next, your body would prioritize if you had any ketones on board, and then it's going to go to your glycogen stores. And then the fat you eat, and then the fat on your body. So the fat on your body is at the end. So combining alcohol with other foods, I've seen it too many times. People get on a roll, they're in ketosis, they're doing well, and they're early in their ketogenic journey, and they get some alcohol in, and they're 3 steps forward, and next thing you know, they're kind of 2 steps back. And it's temporary, but the more severe your insulin resistance is, the harder it is for you to recover from any of these interruptions. So if you are going to partake in a drink, stay away from beer and sugary cocktails. They are obvious ketosis killers, right? Then you can do vodka, tequila, or dry wine. They're low in carbs, but they still will slow fat burning. And then finally, I think the solution is, if you're going to drink, stick to those dry wine and spirits with no mixers. That's your best option, and limit portions. The next culprit is stress and high cortisol levels. And how do you get rid of that? Well, sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. And sometimes you just need to manage it and be aware of it. So even if your diet is perfect, you're on point, high stress can raise blood sugar and cause insulin levels to go up. And it slows down fat loss and you can get pushed out of ketosis. So you need to be aware of it. And if you're motoring along really well and all of a sudden you feel like you have a stall, take a step back and think, what's going on in my life? Am I overstressed here? Am I not getting good sleep? So another way to know is, are you starting to crave carbohydrates, which you've been off carbs for a while and all of a sudden you want some of them? That's a good sign that you might be in a stressful situation. Are you feeling wired but exhausted? We've all been there, right? That's another sign. And then if your sleep habits become disrupted. Sleep, man, I can't tell you how important that is. If you wake up that next day with less sleep, your cortisol levels are going to have to be higher. You're going to feel like snacking more throughout the day because your energy is low. You need to really begin to prioritize sleep. And that's the number one solution, I would say, is prioritizing sleep. Figure out where you feel best and try to do it. Reduce stress through meditation, walking, deep breathing, just taking a moment for yourself, whatever works for you. And again, a big part of it is just recognizing it. And then exercising, moving your body, whether it's through walking or resistance training. Both of them are great. You just don't want to overdo cardio. So when I was in my early phase once I got the lap band and I was stalling and I still had insulin resistance, what I ended up doing was working out twice a day, and that just sabotaged my results even more. So we just need to keep our heart healthy. We need to maintain our strength. And when we're putting food in our mouth, we want to make sure it's whole food and it's going to provide us fuel and nutrients. So strength training and walking, a 10-minute walk after a meal is amazing. Any glucose that came in with that meal, you'll use up when you use the large muscles like your legs. And after just 10 minutes, it'll use up all that glycogen or all that glucose that's in your bloodstream, and it won't have to be stored in your muscles, and you won't need a big insulin response. When you're not getting enough sleep, it produces the hunger hormone ghrelin, making you crave carbs. But lack of sleep impairs insulin sensitivity too, so making it harder for you to stay in ketosis. So again, try to minimize the screens that you're looking at night. Stay off the computer or wear the glasses. The blue light really suppresses melatonin, and melatonin really helps us fall asleep and stay asleep. You also want to stick to a sleep schedule so that your body gets used to it, and you want to make sure it's dark and keep the temperature low, because that signals to your body that it's time to go to sleep as well. Okay, next. So keto is high fat, yes. Does it mean unlimited fat equals guaranteed ketosis? Not necessarily. If you're eating a lot of fat, but you're also sneaking in extra carbs, that can kick you out of ketosis. And if you're eating bad fats as well, again, that affects your insulin resistance. It increases it. So if you this is the trifecta of bad food. Bad fats, processed carbs like refined flour, and sugar. Okay? And so think of a donut. All right? That is all things bad. It's white flour, donuts, fried in bad oils with lots of sugary carbs, lots of simple carbs. So you want to avoid having too many carbs, especially the wrong carbs, with too much fat. So stick to healthy fats like avocado, olive oil, butter, coconut oil, lard, fatty cuts of meat, and track total carbs. If you want to get it right and get into ketosis quicker, it's better to track total carbs versus net carbs. And I suggest you watch the net carb total carb video. It will be very enlightening how quick those net carbs add up. So the least common reason for knocking you out of ketosis is medications or supplements. So some medications increase blood sugar levels, which could, again, knock you out of ketosis. Common culprits are steroids, like prednisone. That's a very common medicine, very powerful medicine, very good medicine. But when you're on it, it causes your blood sugar to go up. And again, that's going to knock you out of ketosis. Some antidepressants. Now, I'm not fluent in all the different antidepressants, but some people will gain weight on some of them, and it does affect some people's blood sugar. And again, if your blood sugar is going up, your insulin's going to go up. It's going to knock you out of ketosis, and it's going to stall your fat burning. Certain birth control pills as well. If you notice that you were doing well and all of a sudden you started the birth control pill, and you notice that you can't get in ketosis or you're not losing weight anymore, these 3 examples are great examples for you to talk to your doctor if there's any kind of alternative, and try a different medication possibly, but that's a decision with your doctor. Now, BCCAs, branched chain amino acids, this is a supplement that people take when they're very much into bodybuilding and weightlifting, and these can also cause an insulin spike from some of the amino acids in there. So if you recently started those and you notice fat loss is not as good, again, and you're out of ketosis, that might be the culprit. Let's talk about how we actually confirm that you're in ketosis. There's 3 ways. I mean, there's some signs that eventually you'll learn to know those signs. But if you're a data person and you want to know, you're trying to tweak what you're eating, and you want to know if it's helping you in ketosis more, or you're trying a certain type of keto product, you want to make sure you're okay with that. Here's 3 ways you can do it. The first way you can do that is urine ketone strips. Cheap, easy, but not always accurate. Best for beginners for a few weeks. I used the ketone strips, and when I did a happy dance the first time I saw a ketone show up. And then as I got into the ketogenic diet and I knew this was going to be a way of life for me, I purchased the blood ketone meters. Now, there's a lot of different kinds out there. The urine strips are only about $10 to $20 for like 100 strips. The ketone meters, they measure beta hydroxybutyrate, and they measure it in your blood. So this requires a finger stick, and then you take a little sample of your blood, and it tells you how many ketones are in your blood. That is the most accurate way to tell if you're in ketosis or not. The cost is about anywhere from $30 to $60 for the machine, but the strips are what's really expensive. They can be anywhere from $1 to $2 each for a strip. Now, the ketone meter I have is a Keto Mojo. You can also check blood sugar and your ketones, and that was really helpful for me along the way. And the third way is a breath meter, and these measure acetone levels in your breath. They're good for tracking trends over time, but they're not as precise as blood testing. They're anywhere from $80 to $300 on brand and accuracy. I have one of those as well. If I was going to put my money out, I think it's great to start with the ketone strips, urine strips, to make sure you like this way of eating and it seems to be working with you. If you're getting more serious, if you have reasons why you really want to make sure you're in ketosis, then I would say a ketone meter that measures beta hydroxybutyrate. And then, so what is a good ketone level? You're not considered in ketosis unless you're producing a minimum of 0.5 millimoles per liter. So 0.5 to 1.5 is considered light ketosis. From 1.5 to 3.0 is optimal ketosis, and that's best for fat loss and for mental clarity. And boy, when you're in it, you know you're in it. You feel different. You feel good. You feel on point, energized. And then above 3 is deep ketosis, and that's more common in fasting and therapeutic keto. So there are some people, when we say therapeutic keto, some people who have cancers that thrive on glucose, they will follow a real strict ketogenic diet where they up that fat a little bit more so that they're staying in that higher level of ketosis, and they're creating an environment which cancer can't grow. Or people who are in chronic kidney disease and they're trying to reverse that. So I hope this series was really helpful. Staying in ketosis just doesn't mean you're avoiding carbohydrates. It's about managing hidden sugars, hidden carbs, sweeteners, learning how to read labels, knowing which sugars are good, which ones are bad, about consuming alcohol. Is it worth it? Does it sabotage your results? You have to decide that on an individual basis. And you also have to learn to prioritize sleep and manage stress. All of these things make up the big picture about your health and being able to be a good fat burner and stay in ketosis. So which one of these surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments below. And if this was helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button. It really goes a long way to supporting me in my efforts to grow this channel. And stay healthy, stay in ketosis. I'll see you in the next video. If you didn't see part 1 and part 2, go back and check them out.